All right, recording has started, and this is the September 21st, 2023 Crossplane community meeting. So as always, in the chat, I will drop in the Zoom chat, that is, I will drop a direct link to the agenda document so you folks can click on that. Feel free to add yourself as an attendee if you want to. And also, as always, the agenda document is open for anybody to make contributions or discussion topics that they're interested in. So feel free to add suggestions and we'll merge them on into the document. So not too much in terms of recent releases. There was the Upbound's Universal Crossplane. There's that distribution of Crossplane did have a release in the last couple of weeks, and you can click into the release notes there if you're curious about what's included in there. But mostly all eyes right now are on the upcoming 1.14 release. We are just about a month away now. It's scheduled for late October. So a little bit more than a month, but that's about the approximate timeline there. We've made some really good progress on some of the key deliverables and high-level themes for the 1.14 milestone. So just taking a quick look at the roadmap here. As far as I know, everything is on track to be completed for 1.14. You'll notice that we have already closed out one of the high-level epics for the 1.14 milestone. Hassan was kind enough, I think it was actually 2 meetings ago, to show us a demo of the usage type, the new usage API that is helpful for enforcing ordered deletion of your resources. And that has been merged into the main branch of Crossplane, and it will definitely be included in 1.14. Everything else, there is, I think that the observability resources and the composition validation stuff, I think that's not much left to go on that. And so the 2 bigger things that are still left and still have ongoing work are the composition functions work to get those matured and into experience around those and moving those to beta, which we'll go into a little bit more in depth later on in the meeting here today. And then a lot of developer experience improvements that we're investing in that we'll talk about later in the agenda as well, along with the full context of expanding the scope of the charter of Crossplane that we announced yesterday. So that's the high level for 1.14. I will bring up the release board for 1.14 as well. I don't think it's entirely up to date. There's a few things probably that are maybe a little bit stale or need to be updated here. But the key takeaway here is that everything we've got planned in the roadmap for 1.14 is on track, and I don't see major obstacles there. And then there's a number of other things in flight as well on the 1.14 board. Is there anything for 1.14 that folks want to bring up specifically to chat about? And Hassan, did I represent the order deletion stuff correctly when I was speaking about it? Anything that you would need to correct there?
No, all correct. All
right, awesome. Is anyone, let's see, so Ezgi is here, and then no Philippe and no Nick. Ezgi, is there anything that you wanted to add for the composition functions effort?
I think we are on track. I mean, we have a function template ready to be used for creating new functions. We have merged the deployment part already. There is one work ongoing on Philippe's side, which is actually changing the newly introduced secrets with certificates. So that part is ongoing. I am working on a new composition function, which will allow us to use Go templates. And as far as I know, Nick is working on a Go SDK for writing functions. So I think everything is on track and we will be ready for 1.14.
Nice, Ezgi. In that particular part you were working on there, a reusable or general function that allows you to essentially to write composition logic in, Go template style, Helm template style is one of the things I'm actually most excited about as a outcome of the composition function investments we're making. So I'm excited to see you deliver on that one.
Yeah, me too.
Sweet. All right, so that's roadmappy stuff in 1.14. Reminder that late October is what we're targeting there. Typically, we do the fourth Tuesday in the month there. So I think, I'm not looking at a calendar, but I think that's around the 23rd or so. That will be the approximate time that we're shooting for, but with some definite leeway to push it back a little bit as needed for landing all the features and getting everything well tested and feeling good about everything. The intent certainly is to get the release out before KubeCon North America in Chicago. That is still very much a strong desire from everyone around here. All right, if there are no other comments about 1.14 of the progress there from the group, then we can move along to the provider section. Not a lot to talk about there. I think that on Tuesday, I think, so 5 days or so from now is when we're expecting another drop of provider releases. So there won't be much, I think, to share until then. But there is a brand new provider that has, you can check out the release notes and the marketplace entry for it for Keycloak. I have not used this provider at all, but I know Christopher Har was excited about it. And Chris, are you on the call here today? It doesn't look like it looks like we're missing a couple folks I wanted to get some updates from. But yeah, so that there is a new provider Keycloak that is available and in the marketplace as well there. Tobias, it looks like you have something to share for providers as well. Do you want to go ahead and share right now?
Sure. So I have a small question. So there is a provider GitHub already, and the thing is, it seems to be abandoned. And because we're currently using a similar logic built on top of another framework, and I wanted to replace it with such logic, I just started writing. And now I have a provider GitHub, which has pretty much the basic features. And I wanted to ask, like, how you handle such stuff. Like I have to say it's not my native language, so to say. I'm coming actually from Python, but I was contributing in the provider AWS, so I thought I start from scratch, and now it looks like it's almost ready for some kind of an alpha release. And the old version.
Oh, it looks like you cut out just at the end there, Tobias. Are you still, do you still have audio? Oh, not able to hear you right now, Tobias, even though I don't see you that you're muted. So hopefully you can at least hear the response here. And if not, we can, you could, oh, I think Tobias got kicked out as well. And it looks like it's joining back in again now. Now, let me give Tobias like 5 seconds to maybe come back on with audio before we move on. All right, so like I'll give a response here now, and then Tobias, if is not able to listen to it now, you can definitely check out the recording, and that'll be captured there as well. So so for the GitHub provider there, I like the effort first off about I just started writing and ended up with the provider. That's a happy place to end up with. So that's cool, man, and congratulations on that effort there. So in general, it's good in the community to have convergence upon a single provider so that there's, you don't have multiple providers and there's confusion about it. We've seen that before and there's no doubt about it. And it's good to end up with convergence. So one thing, Tobias, that we might want to do there is let's try to get a conversation with the current maintainers of the current provider GitHub. And let's try to approach it from that angle of you have some new developments that you either want to contribute as a whole, or maybe consider merging it with the existing provider or becoming a maintainer on the existing provider, something along those lines. But let's sync up with the current maintainer team provider GitHub and see, get a baseline of what that team is planning to do and what we can do with with your efforts that you've made too. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, to give you some history, I actually coming from exactly that route. So I was checking, and the last commit is actually 2 years ago. And I tried to text the maintainer like Hashadan, and he didn't respond. I tried to ask Christopher because I regularly am in contact with him, but he seemed to be very busy. And then I posted in the channel, and they said like, okay, best is you go just to the community meeting. So
got it. Yep. Yeah, cool. Okay, yeah, thanks for that context, definitely. And then yeah, and then I'm happy to follow up with those folks as well and see if we can get a bit of a bit of response. But like when in general, if a maintainer if a provider is no longer maintained, it can be archived, or there can be new maintainers joining in there. So I think that's a route to explore to see, if the existing maintainer team, wants to have your contribution come in and essentially you become a maintainer on it. But we will follow up with the maintainer team to get a confirmation about that, and just so we're all on the same page on what concrete steps to take. But that's the approach that we'll take here.
Yeah, would be really great. I built 100% on top what was already there. I just used a new template, so let's see how this goes.
Okay, cool.
So it's pretty much the same, just with a lot of additional stuff and with
Awesome.
a model template. I'm gonna send you the link, and thanks for your ears.
Yeah, man. Of course. Just send me a message on the Crossplane Slack, and then we can follow up together and get a confirmation there. Hassan, I see you came off mute. Did you have something you wanted to contribute here?
Yeah, I would just add, like, just checking the repository, and it looks like there is no releases. So like it's not available, I think, in the marketplace. So it looks like quite abundant, but I think you will already follow up on that.
Yeah, I
Yep.
also would at the end need some help to finalize it, so it's really on the marketplace and the deployment is really on official sources, and that would be really cool. But let's talk about this later then.
Yeah, that sounds great, Tobias. Thanks for your enthusiasm and your efforts here, and we'll follow up on that.
Happy to contribute.
All right, rad. Awesome, man. Okay, so then we'll move on to the community topics section here. So there is a number of pieces of content from around the ecosystem and the industry that are mentioning Crossplane. So there's a number of links that you can click into here and check those out on your own time. We will go into more specific details about, and then Clement mentioned this in the chat as well, about donating the Upjet framework and providers to the Crossplane community too. So we'll go into more details on that in just a little bit. And then I did want to call attention to the community newsletter here. We have started a newsletter for this audience here, for the folks that are adopters and users and contributors to Crossplane. We want to do that on a regular cadence to give another outlet for folks to get updates on the community if they're not super involved in Slack or Twitter or whatever. Just another option to stay in touch with the project. And so if folks check on that blog post there, it's kind of announcing the community newsletter and what its intent is. And then there's a way to opt in and subscribe to it as well if you're interested in that. So click through that and check that out. So big news from this week definitely was the Community Day event. That was on Tuesday morning, so just a couple of days ago. And I thought it was awesome. It was a really cool event. There was a lot of participation, a lot of folks that got registered, very good content as well. Really loved all the talks, so that was super fun. The plan here is definitely we're currently processing the recordings, segmenting them up into specific talks so that we can upload talk by talk, and they're more easily indexable and discoverable that way. Adding like speaker cards and stuff like that. So they're being processed right now, and as soon as those are available, we will be posting them on YouTube so that they're accessible for everybody to check out who wasn't available to make the event. So be on the lookout for that. And then I wanted to specifically call out Kelly for her efforts here on organizing and driving the event and getting everything put together. She put a lot of work and a lot of effort into it, and I think it turned out really great. So thank you very much, Kelly, for your efforts on that and your success as well. There is everyone who was registered for the event. I believe you got an automated email after it was over with a feedback form. So feel free to add your feedback there and let us know, what you liked, what you didn't like, what can be improved, all that sort of stuff. There's a direct link to it as well if you didn't get the email about it. So feel free to click through on that. And then I wanted to open the floor up for anybody in this group here, if there was any thoughts or experiences or highlights or anything that you wanted to share about the Community Day event that was earlier this week. All right, nothing to share? Well, feel free to put your feedback into the forum if you want to make that in a more direct route for the event planners there, and we'll be happy to look through all of that and try to make the next event even better than this one was. All right. Nothing new on KubeCon Chicago stuff. This is just an ongoing link here so folks can see all the Crossplane related talks and get those on their schedule if they're interested in those. We're involved. I'm involved in a number of talks, and we're making progress on all of those to get some good sessions together. And I'm looking forward to getting to Chicago and hang out with everybody. All right, let me do another check here to see if Nick is online. He is not, so I will take this one for him then. All right, so Nick opened up this discussion just a few days ago. And so the effort on composition functions and maturing them and improving the experience as we go towards beta here for 1.14 is to a point now where we're ready for folks to test it and provide feedback. So I think this is a really cool opportunity to take the resources and the experiences that we've built so far, and for folks to go ahead and already write functions with this new experience. I think it's I don't want to seed this too much, but I believe that this is a much easier experience here and a much improved and streamlined way to go about writing custom logic for composition functions. There's a couple of different examples you could check out. And Nick is mentioning the best place to get started is to check out the README of the template repo that you can use as a starting point that has all of the boilerplate code and dependencies and build structure and all that sort of stuff. And you can just focus on writing only your custom logic within there. So anybody who engages in this effort here, go ahead, and we'd love for you to share your efforts in this discussion. It looks like there's been a bit of chatter around it already. And get your feedback, early feedback, so we still have plenty of time to make updates or corrections for 1.14. And excited to see what folks are coming up with here too. So check out this discussion here, and if you've got time, definitely try your hand at writing a composition function now with this new experience and see what you think about it.
Jared, actually, that second link is also shared in the last comment of the previous discussion, so you can also check the context there and mention what's going on.
I have not read this, Sasan. Do you know what this is, or do you want to share it here?
Yeah, Nick just shared it in the Slack, Crossplane Slack, and it looks like it's a small little tool called X Render, and it acts like a Helm template render, so you can use it to locally render any composite or composition, and this will help shifting left for the feedback loop, so you wouldn't need to run Crossplane to see how your composition behaves. So I think it's a great capability, and it will also be used for function development as well. So you can just run your function locally and see how it renders the resources. So I think it looks like a quite nice addition to the function feature.
Amazing. I did not know that Nick had already gotten something up and running for that. So that's fantastic progress. Really stoked to see that. Wow, what that guy can do without his fiber internet connection. That's amazing. Cool. Alrighty. Thanks for calling that out, Hassan. All right, so let's go into the next section here. So Bassam, I see you're on the call here today, and you actually made this announcement at the Community Day event. Do you want to take this agenda item here to kind of talk through some of these charter updates and the donation of the Upjet tech, framework and providers that Upbound is making? Oh. All right, maybe Bassam stepped away, so I will go ahead and take this one then. So yeah, so at the Community Day on Tuesday, we made an announcement, two big announcements here. So let's walk through those and see what they mean. And then we can, kind of answer some questions if folks are still kind of curious about them as well. So the first one here is that we made a update to the charter to expand it and essentially include more things within the scope of the project. So, over the last, couple of years here, we've gotten fairly clear feedback from folks that, the adoption journey of Crossplane is, it has its challenges and it has some obstacles there. And there's a number of things that could be included within the project that would facilitate the successful adoption of the project, make it easier to use and make it easier to understand. So we got more explicit about that and added, made this official charter updates to include those types of things into the project. So now that's kind of, fully sanctioned and, part of our mission here. And you can expect development work on these areas. So the two high-level areas is one of them is providers in general. So, Crossplane had opinions on extensions and what it means to be a provider, but all providers were essentially outside of the project. They were kind of, we have a neutral place with well-defined governance for folks to collaborate on providers, but they weren't, really part of the project officially. And so, now we've made that possible for providers to be, brought into the project and have more of a, complete experience and support around those. And the other area was this kind of broad but fairly impactful area of developer experience. So, in the charter before, there was a gap there around, tooling and experiences and stuff like that, automation, et cetera. That would help you to build your platform, build compositions and, have a good experience around those and early feedback and all that sort of stuff, and to manage a control plane. So you can expect with some of that developer experience expansion of our focus the end goal here is to make Crossplane a more complete project without these gaps in it, and to make it easier to use and easier to adopt. That's really the whole point of this effort here to expand the charter. So highly related to that is the other announcement that was made on Tuesday as well. And you can read some details in this blog post here also. But essentially, let's take a look at the steering committee vote. So essentially, Upbound as a company has been working on the Upjet framework, which enables you to do code generation of Crossplane providers fairly easily. And it has created a set of providers as well. All those had previously been underneath the Upbound organization and, with a permissive Apache 2 license, but, vendor run completely. They were part of the Upbound organization. So we took a vote here to accept the donation from Upbound of both the Upjet framework and then some of the providers as well, like AWS, Azure, and GCP providers from Upbound, to include those or merge those into the Crossplane organization. This is really, the way to look at this, I think, is really a governance thing. So the license is still Apache 2, that does not change. But basically this donation here gives the providers and the Upjet framework to the Crossplane project, to the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. So it is not possible then to relicense them in the future and change that to any more restrictive licenses. They will be open, they will be belonging to the foundation, And we believe that's a more sustainable model for these providers to exist in the community context instead. So let me see if there's some more links to talk about there, and then we can kind of address anything that comes up here. Yeah, so there will be a deeper blog post here from the Crossplane team. I'll be trying to write that in the next few days or so to kind of explain more details around this and answer any questions that come up there. So there will be some more content around that. And Pete, you wanted to make a note here as well about the docs.
Yeah, so with the providers being out of scope for Crossplane, we've not really done much to talk about providers and documentation outside of the provider object. We're working, I'm kind of thinking through some of the specifics, but effectively we'll be open to starting to document providers and some components around them inside of Crossplane documentation going forward. So I think it'll make especially the authentication components, which has been real tricky for folks, a lot easier, a lot more discoverable.
Yep, thanks for that, Pete. That's definitely a logical extension of providers coming into the charter of the project and belonging there to have docs there as well. Then I see there's a couple things going on in the chat here. Like Jason was asking about, that Upbound mentioned that they're really changing the way that we're generating providers over time, and if that's going to be part of UpChat or something else. It looks like Bassam did answer that in the chat and mentioned that that is intended to be part of UpChat as well, and that all development and work on providers there will be done within the community after this move has happened. A major question that comes up for almost everybody from this, so I want to go ahead and address it right now, is about like a migration impact here. And so the intent here is that this moves the projects to a new home, to the Crossplane, Crossplane related or GitHub organizations, but it does not change the API types, so the group value kinds, et cetera. So there is intended to be zero migration effort for folks that are already using these providers. That you would not have to change schema or change anything like that. So that should be a smooth process there, and I wanted to address that right away. And then Jason's also asking about generating from open tofu. So the plan on that right now, Jason, is that we want to sorry, so this is about generating and not like runtime usage of it. That's a good question. I don't see an immediate like desire to move or change to using open tofu right now.
I can add some context.
Yeah, sure, Bassam.
Yeah, the plan is to remove Terraform completely from the providers. Sorry, from the Crossplane providers, and there's no benefit in using the open tofu in that approach. We are going directly to the MPL licensed providers as part of UpChat, and there's no intermediate Terraform, CLI, diff engine, open tofu or not. So short answer is no, we will not be using open tofu for code generation or anything else on that. We're going directly to the MPL licensed Terraform providers.
Cool, thanks for that, Bassam. All right, any other questions coming up for folks that we can address right now? Jason's also asking if will generation come from a structured input JSON YAML or from an API?
From the Terraform provider schema, which every provider publishes. So it's part of the provider itself. It's really very little change from what we're doing. It's just the invocation path, as I understand it, will not go through Terraform CLI going forward. It'll be directly to the providers versus going through an intermediate CLI.
Yeah, I think this maybe speaks to future plans as well of more close relationships with the cloud providers themselves, and building Crossplane providers based on code generation from their native pipelines themselves, and avoiding Terraform altogether, and which is the long-term vision here. I think that's like a sustainable model that results in high quality and deeper investments into the providers, and so in that model, it's Terraform's not a thing at all.
Yeah, I mean, look, the goal of this move is that we can have these discussions in this forum here, and I think everyone benefits if there are really high quality providers with high coverage, full coverage, and are maintained by an active and vibrant community, or even the infrastructure vendors themselves. And if there are lots of providers, and then there's a choice that detracts from being able to get started with Crossplane and use it more effectively. So I think over time our goal is to try to converge these providers, but that discussion will happen here, not in other places. Just it's now possible to have that as part of the community discussion.
Yep, exactly. All right, awesome, Bassam. Thanks for your contributions to talking through these updates as well, man. So we briefly then got into how developer experience as a whole is now part of the charter of the Crossplane project. So I did want to call out some of our plans around that and ways to start getting involved there too. So 1.14 does, as we discussed, has about a month left. There's not a lot of time left, but we do have a high level tracking issue here that's a roadmap item and part of 1.14, where we're kind of getting a little bit more clear about what type of functionality we would want to have to improve developer experience in Crossplane in this time frame. So I think a big takeaway here is that composition functions as a whole has a lot of investments to make, and strongly believe that with the right investments and the right experience, that will be a big leap forward for the expressiveness, the flexibility, and the ease of use, actually, too, of Crossplane. So there are a number of plans here that we have for building experience around the building, testing, and usage of composition functions. So some developer effort will definitely go into building that developer experience around composition functions in 1.14. So what we ship in 1.14 for composition functions is fairly complete. And then also we'll get a start on more general Crossplane functionality to make around with this, in the spirit of making Crossplane easier to use. For instance, a diagnose command in the Crossplane CLI to be able to track down what it might be wrong with resources in your cluster, and get you shortcut any sort of debugging there and give you a direct answer very quickly with this tooling. You could see something similar where we have plans going in on the roadmap going into, say, 1.15 as well, and kind of continuing to build more functionality into the Crossplane tooling, but also shift left a lot of the experiences here. So for instance, validation right now on compositions is done at apply time, where on your live cluster, you're applying your composition, and if there is something wrong with it, it will result in a failure that you need to track down. We want to provide more tooling and functionality to shift that left to build time and make your build time easier to produce functional, successful Crossplane platforms and compositions early on. So some of these plans are getting captured still and being added to the roadmap now that we've just expanded the charter, and taking the opportunity to add all this interesting stuff into the roadmap as well. And I am inviting folks as well to get involved directly with this effort too. So I've started a brand new special interest group. We've got, I think, like 7 or 8 of them right now. Now this new special interest group would be focused on developer experience. So I don't think this PR has been merged yet to add a link to it to the README, but essentially it's just like the other SIGs in Crossplane. there's a new Slack channel for, let me make this a little bit more SIGDevX. I think it's that actually. So on Crossplane Slack, feel free to join SIGDevX, and we can participate and collaborate together on improving the usability and experience around Crossplane in a collaborative fashion. And we will also be getting a recurring meeting going together for folks that are interested in the experience around Crossplane, that we can have a synchronous point of conversation as well. So folks that are interested in that, please do join that Slack channel, and we'll be meeting together soon to be pushing all of this effort together collaboratively. All right, any questions on the developer experience plans and such? I'm definitely excited to see people join that SIG and participate there and help out. All right. Well, I think that was the last agenda item here that was captured in the doc. So if folks have anything else they want to add, speak up now. And otherwise, if there's nothing else, then we can go ahead and adjourn. All right. Well, then I guess that's it. Good to see everybody today. Thanks for the great questions, and really excited to keep moving everything forward towards 1.14. Hi, everybody.
Thank you.
Ciao. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.